Hello everybody and welcome. This is the SLTV Pro Series Season 10, sponsored by Asus and the Republic of Gamers. I am Hari and bringing you another evening game between XPC International and mYi Insanity. Should be pretty exciting as it's basically the end of the SLTV Pro Series Season 10, so pretty much the team's just here to leave it all on the line. Nothing really unusual in the bans thus far. I should honestly just not start streaming until after the bans are over, because there's not really anything distinctive that ever happens in bans these days. I imagine, in a month or so, maybe the scene will start to shake up a little bit in regards to the new patch, but teams still haven't adapted very much. Just basically picking whatever they want, but typically also picking, the same sort of Death Volley heroes. And we are going to, alright, yeah, I take that back. I mean, we're definitely seeing the impact of the newest patch immediately in this draft, actually, as the Legion Commander will be a first pick. So this is a hero that, it sneaks in sometimes, and other times it's completely ignored. It's definitely a very high-impact hero, although that can be very high positive or negative impact. So we'll have to see which of those it will be here. XPC have seemed to, actually that's not true. The first game of theirs I cast, they favored a very proactive strategy with Pudge and Shadow Demon. The last game I cast, they favored a very reactive strategy with a lot of team fight abilities like Magnus, Void, and Enigma. And this time it looks like we're going back to the proactive with, a hero who sets up ganks very well. But immediately a Shadow Demon pick, which is obviously excellent against Legion Commander, being able to disrupt the person who is dueled, or even disrupt the commander, worst case scenario. Is going to generally be pretty good. Also good for kiting the commander, who obviously gets quite a bit of movement speed from overwhelming odds. Overwhelming odds.
5 seconds.
And why would it be overwhelming odds? Doesn't even make any sense. And so, I mean, just generally a good pick, especially because it's not a bad support in any other case. So having the possibility of doing these good things in this game only makes it that much better of a pick. Plus, it's very flexible. Especially since Mirana is obviously still in the pool. Mirana hasn't really seen a lot of popularity in the past couple of months in Dota. Kind of faded out after she was pretty much picked constantly as a support. Haven't really seen her so much anymore, especially after the nerf to Arrow, I guess. But, no, looks like they're going to go with the Centaur instead, which is another pretty obvious and strong combo with the Shadow Demon. Does make it possible for them to aggressive tri-lane and have the aggressive tri-lane be pretty scary. Excuse me. But alternatively, I mean, they can safe lane, they can, roam the Shadow Demon, etc. They can, the Centaur could theoretically be offlane, although I think solo offlane Centaur is pretty unpopular these days. I think kind of the big break with Centaur was realizing, hey, this hero isn't great when we don't give him anything in the early game, but if we allow him to farm a very fast Blink Dagger, his impact is going to be enormous right away. So, typically, I would expect us either to see him in a safe lane tri-lane or an aggressive tri-lane. Potentially safe lane solo if you really know that the opposing team is going to have a rather weak off-lane solo. But as far as XPC goes, I don't know, sky's the limit. Naga is great against Centaur, but I am not sure if it will actually be seeing a Naga on top of the Legion Commander pick. I can tell you probably don't want to pick Spectre. I would imagine that you're probably looking for some sort of a support. I mean, there is Skywrath who's still in the pool. Skywrath obviously combos pretty well with Legion Commander. The big risk is that potentially you just get blown out by a disruption if you throw everything into one boat on the dueled hero. But assuming, either the Shadow Demon isn't in perfect position or doesn't have a Blink Dagger or Force Staff, etc., there's a pretty decent chance early on that you can make pickoffs with that combo. And similarly, the silence is obviously quite good against the Shadow Demon from preventing him from disrupting. It says pretty long range. Skywrath is pretty fast, but no, I'm gonna go for the Wisp. So definitely some exciting picks there. I mean, Wisp plus Legion Commander. That's some furious dueling, and thanks to the Wisp relocate, can happen anywhere on the map. So definitely means Legion Commander is something to be afraid of. We'll have to see whether that still means that there will be a blink on the Legion Commander. I imagine so. Even though relocate obviously can get you in on top of people in the middle of fights, it's still rather difficult to actually catch someone just by relocating on top of them, because typically they're going to move away from the relocate target location. And you really do want to make sure that you can actually grab someone and force them to fight. So I imagine we will see that Blink Dagger. The question also remains with Legion Commander, whether it will be a safe lane Legion Commander, which is typically what we've seen so far from teams who have run the Legion in 6.82. But it could also be a solo mid Legion, or since you have Wisp, dual lanes are certainly always a very distinct possibility. Could see the Legion Commander mid in a dual lane, or we could see something else picked up. I doubt you want another melee hero, especially against the Shadow Demon, so probably no Tiny or CK or something like that. But I don't know, maybe a Morphling would definitely be a possibility. I'm not sure how well Morphling fits in with the kind of Legion Commander Wisp ganky strategy, but it does kind of give them something that they can fall back on, and it's a pretty difficult hero to kill with Centaur. Although, admittedly, Soulcatcher is pretty decent at eating through the morph. But we do see an Enigma and Sven banned out by mY Insanity, so well, nothing very specific there. Sven, I guess, maybe they were thinking of that for going with the Wisp, although Sven also gets kited really hard by the Shadow Demon, so I'm not sure that's exactly what you'd be looking for. But, excuse me, I don't know what's going on. My girlfriend poisoned me with some tea or something. But I guess maybe the amount of damage that Sven... Oh, wait, well, I guess there is the new Sven Aghanims. So maybe they were afraid of Sven, you know, pumping out Aghanims and beefing up the Legion Commander for the duels. I doubt that's the case, though. And then, obviously, the Enigma is just a generally strong hero. Also good with Wisp. On the other side, we see Viper banned, indicating that there's a decent chance that we will actually be seeing the Legion Commander in the mid. Just not wanting to deal with that Viper there, although it's just Viper's generally a really annoying hero. And then the Batrider. I don't really see a lot of Batrider, but I have seen it banned in a couple of XPC's games. mY Insanity pick up the Invoker. Obviously Sunstrike from Shadow Demon's Disruption combos abound. And XPC go back for the Magnus, which is actually the second game they picked that up in a row that I've cast for them. Really favoring that Magnus, providing some team fight utility, as well as obviously the damage boost for Legion Commander, which is not insignificant. Although I'm not sure how important the cleave is for her. I mean, she's pretty good at clearing creep waves with overwhelming odds, and I mean, I guess it does kind of have a cooldown. Oh, this is a bit of deja vu. And the cleave in team fights, less likely to be relevant since you're typically like trying to pick out one hero. But we do see a Spectre, which is actually the second time... I mean, the last time there was a Magnus for XPC, there was a Spectre on the other team, although it wasn't exactly the same. It was actually that there was, in fact, a... it was like a Faceless Void plus... What was their other carry in that game? Oh yeah, Ember. Ember, Faceless Void, Magnus, etc. Up against the Spectre. Oh, and then the Abaddon. So I guess that is kind of hedging against the possibility of an aggressive tri-lane from mY Insanity, which really is indicative of... I would almost have... Well, then again they picked Magnus. I mean, typically, like, Abaddon and Wisp, two very good dual lane supports. Typically, you can put Abaddon with a hero in the lane where you're going to have the opposing team's aggressive tri-lane, or tri-lane, whatever. I mean, if you can do it long lane when they're going to have a safe tri-lane, this works as well with some heroes like Weaver was the classic combo. Just to prevent that hero from getting killed. And, yeah, but at the same time here with the Magnus pick, I mean, Magnus can certainly off-lane, and then you can do the dual lane still. We don't see a ton of Magnus off-lane, but it's certainly doable. Meanwhile, over on mY Insanity's side, I would say that actually we're looking at a safe lane tri-lane with the Spectre, and just a solo off-lane Centaur. But I guess the risk, I mean, the thing is, the Centaur should have a pretty good time regardless, because Abaddon and Wisp really can't kill him. It depends what the third hero in tri-lane is. I mean, Legion Commander definitely can't either. They pick up another hero potentially, one who has disables or more burst damage maybe. And yeah, I mean they can't really zone him either. I mean Wisp trying to zone a Centaur, it's not really going to work very well. Although Wisp can get a lot of regen obviously, which might eventually make it happen, but it's going to be pretty slow, and the Centaur should be able to get a fair amount. At the same time, you're going to have the Spectre, who, well, Spectre did work against XPC last time. We'll have to see if they can redeem that. I mean, it also leads into the global strategy quite well, with the disruption somewhere and then Sunstrike, and if you really need it, Spectre's ultimate to follow up. But, yeah. At the same time, Spectre kind of, I mean, really does need to get some amount of farm, and is in that regard susceptible to being ganked in the early mid-game, which is something obviously the Legion Commander plus Wisp combo does want to do, despite having something like an Abaddon, which is very not leading itself to that, although Abaddon definitely good for protecting a dual Legion Commander, so that obviously makes sense as well, and it's just generally good against the long duration disable from the Centaur, although can be a bit tricky to actually get in and get the shield off, just because the huge stun range on Centaur. I mean, Centaur has that stun, and Magnus has reverse polarity. Reverse polarity is an ultimate, yet Centaur's stun is a level 1, or I mean, whatever, a non-ultimate, a basic ability. And they basically have very similar AoEs for their stunning. Now, obviously, reverse polarity does clump up everyone, so it is in that regard a little bit better, but and the fact that it goes through Magic Immunity, still a bit scary. And the last pickup, Enchantress. So, I don't even know at this point. I mean, it still indicates, I guess, the Spectre safe lane, supported by just the Shadow Demon, and the Enchantress in the jungle, off-lane Centaur, and mid-Invoker. The only thing is that, like, Centaur plus Shadow Demon is such a good combo, where Shadow Demon's a kind of mediocre solo support. Typically, you really want to combo him with something else which can take advantage of the disruption. Now, obviously, you have Sunstrikes, but you're still not going to get kills off of that, even with the slightly increased slow from Spectre's Dagger. So I'm not sure, but at the same time, Shadow Demon is a pretty good support to roam with the Enchantress, so I guess they can still technically make stuff happen, although it should make the offlaning relatively easy for the XPC player, as long as he can, I mean, survive the Enchantress ganks, which is obviously the harder part, but still doable nonetheless. So we'll have to see what exactly it is they do end up wanting to pick up. Maybe Abaddon can even go into the offlane now, and they would pick up like a jungle or another support, just because they've already seen what the opposing team... No. So there's going to be a Bristleback, which makes sense as well, because Bristleback's going to be able to get a lot early on in that offlane, and with an Abaddon and a Wisp to power him up, he can get quite scary quite quickly. But the biggest problem is you now have this Abaddon who doesn't really have anything to do. I mean... Well, what he can do, and what he should do, is pick up a TP scroll as soon as possible into the game. I mean, obviously not at the start, but like literally first 100, actually I was going to say 135 gold, first 100 gold, buy a TP, and just be prepared to TP top or to TP mid to save people from the Enchantress gank. But aside from that, doesn't, like, you can't zone. You can make pulls to get the experience, which is kind of something, although he's a pretty inexperienced, not really an experience-dependent support, to be perfectly honest. I mean, yes, he does want to get his level 6. Yes, he kind of does want more points in Aphotic Shield, but with 1 point he really kind of does enough, typically, to be significant in the portions of the game where he really matters. So here, even though he's going to be able to get levels, it's not really the way that you want to have an Abaddon used, and accordingly, it kind of makes the Abaddon a little bit of a lackluster pick for them, at least until they get to the mid-game, when at that point, having, you know, the tankiness of the Bristleback, the double disable removal from the Abaddon and the Legion Commander could make it actually very difficult for mYi to actually bring people down in team fights, despite the fact that they do have something which is very good at killing people quickly, the Shadow Demon plus Centaur combo. Regardless, I do think... I don't know, it's tough to say. But I actually do think I'd like mYi's draft a little bit more. I just think that, I don't know, they're going to get more out of the laning phase, I would say, than XPC are, just based on picks alone. I mean, they're going to have a freefarm Spectre, which to me is scarier than the freefarm Legion. Neither of them really freefarm, because they both have like a melee hero who can disrupt them a bit. And I guess the Bristleback can disrupt the Spectre a little bit more than the Centaur can disrupt the Legion, but still, that being said, I mean, Spectre and Legion both getting to get farm, and obviously I fear the Spectre more than I fear the Legion, although the Legion can certainly have an impact sooner than the Spectre can. Similarly, I mean, the Enchantress is going to get a lot from the jungle, and some amount from roams, plus the potential to take an early tower, which, albeit less significant in 6.82 than it was before, still definitely matters, whereas there's really no roaming or tower potential from the XPC supports. And the biggest problem is that the support who typically is going to have to zone, the range support, is actually the one who needs levels more, whereas the melee support here, the Abaddon, doesn't really need levels at all, and at the same time is pretty terrible at zoning. So maybe they'll try to work it out that the Abaddon kind of does that duty. I don't really know how you would want to do that. I mean, maybe you'd pick up 1 point in Curse, and just try to hit the Centaur, but I don't think that would be a very good plan, especially because, like I said, it really does want to just make sure that he is able to TP and Aphotic Shield people as early into the game as possible. Because, honestly, like, if the Enchantress just kind of farms in the jungle, doesn't do a whole lot else, looks for ganks, but doesn't really, force, I would say that mYi definitely get more of the laning phase, but if Enchantress is really obsessed with the idea that she needs to make kills in order to stake a tower, or just in order to have an early impact, and the Abaddon foils her, then in that case, I would say the support picks work out quite fine for XPC. So, as atypical it is to just say, hey, Enchantress, get up farm in the jungle, I think in this game I would just say, hey, Enchantress, get up farm in the jungle. And, you know, picking up a fast mech, they don't really have another natural mech carrier. I mean, Centaur can certainly do it, but, yeah, you don't typically want that to slow down his Blink Dagger, and after the Blink Dagger, it's not as early as it could be. Similarly, Invokers have gotten mech from time to time, but definitely don't think that it's a great overall plan. And just going to do one thing real quick. Forgot to change the overlay out, but it should be fixed now. Yeah, so I guess we can go through. Well, so I guess is this going to be Abaddon? Yeah, this is going to actually be Abaddon dual lane, and he actually did start with a TP. Hold on 1 second. Yeah, so it is actually maybe going to be dual lane top with the Abaddon, which I like a little bit more. Definitely really makes the Bristleback unkillable, and similarly, then they can just dual lane with the Wisp bottom. Anyway, let's go over the players real quick. So we do have Water, who will be playing on the Bristleback in the long lane. Skanks, 224, who will be supporting him on the Abaddon. Madara, who will be going mid, reprising his role as the Magnus. Relax on Legion Commander in the safe lane, and Spartan, who will be supporting on the Wisp, also with a very fast TP scroll. Maybe that's just more to swap lanes, depending on where the opposing lane is. Looks like we might have a solo safe lane Spectre. We've got Zimaj is Banara on the Spectre in the safe lane. That is excellent looking weapon that he has there, actually. A little bit, not really anything happening there. Milan will be going mid on the Invoker. Lizard, who will be farming in the jungle with the Enchantress. Hatawa, who will be supporting on the Shadow Demon. And Sensei, or Grazine, actually, yeah, Sensei is actually the sponsor, who will be going, well, now it looks like into the safe lane, playing on the Centaur. So we actually are going to have the dual lane down here with the Shadow Demon plus the Spectre. I guess that makes sense, since the more difficult lane to go up against will certainly have been the, oh, God, that hurts so much against that 0 armor, will, you know, probably be the Bristleback plus Abaddon lane. Well, not probably, certainly. And similarly, like, they can't stop the Centaur from getting what he wants there, but it's going to be less difficult than it, I mean, for the Spectre to continue to farm down here. Though at the same time, no, there's not really anything that can be done about it. So, yeah, I think this is actually a pretty good decision, pretty good adaptation from mYi. Legion Commander unfortunately missing with overwhelming odds there, but getting a fair number of right clicks, which is at least happy. And looks like there was a consideration to go on the Centaur up here, but that huge AoE on the stun prevented any shenanigans there. And we can see the Centaur has already actually picked up a magic stick, so the odds of killing him are pretty low. Water just keeping him on his toes, but does need to be careful because he's an extremely limited mana pool on this hero early in the game. And we do already have the rotation, actually, the smoke gank with the Enchantress. Not the best creeps for ganking. Obviously, the Satyr is pretty bad. And actually, they're going to get spotted out, but Wisp, not really paying any attention, is going to have to relocate away. Is someone coming to him? He's actually should be able to relocate out of this to the, Legion Commander. Will there be a TP in from the Abaddon? No, there will not be, and this will be First Blood. Could have been a little bit better played, but so at the same time, yeah, looks like they wanted to go top, I was going to say, but I'm still just not succeeding. So, well, First Blood already achieved, and the roaming was successful. So, despite the fact that I said I'm not sure that I would roam if I was the Enchantress, she actually does it and pulls it off. I would just say that the Abaddon probably should have TP'd as soon as they saw the disruption. I mean, like, while he was disrupted, they have all the time in the world, and if he'd been there with a shield, it would work perfectly. It's not like leaving the Bristleback solo against the Centaur is really going to be a bad time for the Bristleback. So it's not like you lose much by making the TP there. And you started with the TP, so you've really got to be prepared to use it. Unfortunately, didn't, and gave up First Blood. Let's take a look at some of the other lanes. So, Invoker actually doing quite well mid against this Magnus. Isn't Exort Invoker as we would expect with the Shadow Demon. Still, typically Exort Invoker, I mean, Invokers usually don't have the easiest time in the first couple levels, then it gets a little bit more difficult, although kind of the same for Magnus. Still, I would expect this to be, honestly, a little bit closer than it is, which could be a little bit scary, because the faster that Invoker gets a Midas, the scarier it's going to be. Anyway, looks like the rotation is coming mid. Will they actually be able to catch the Magnus? He can actually just skewer up to the high ground if he feels any danger, and yeah, does do exactly that. So this gank kind of foiled. I'm not sure that this was actually the best plan for a gank in general, since even if you did manage to get a disruption off, he's generally going to be able to skewer out of it. But at the same time, they didn't really lose much, just going back to farming as the two of them, and kind of leaving a Spectre solo down here. But, I mean, the Spectre who is being left solo is still sitting at equal CS to the Magnus in the mid, which is... so, sorry, I was reading the stream chat again. I mean, which is, you know, a little bit scary. The Wisp, again, though, can't really actually zone Spectre very reasonably. Oh, and Wisp, no, you're going to be fine this time. Is just going to relocate out. Doesn't even want to run the risk of anything similar to the last time happening there. And I'm just going to try to respond to the stream chat. So I don't really know what the lag is, guys. I guess we had this problem last time as well. But if I check OBS... yeah, absolutely 0 frames drop. So, well, I'll have to worry about it later. We do have another go bottom. Will there be an Abaddon TP this time? Looks like the Legion Commander is actually going to heal himself. Abaddon is actually here. They probably should have actually tried baiting this in a little bit more. But it looks like they might have caught one. And she is extremely low. But actually, the Legion Commander getting blocked. The shield is maybe not going to actually pop on her. Legion Commander still running after. Does have stick charges, actually. And she's going to try to juke down here, which I think means she's probably not going to end up getting out of this. As she doesn't really have any way to heal herself up. And actually, even Magnus has rotated over. So she is going to end up dying. But it does lead to a rotation of 4 heroes down to the bottom here. And, yeah. So I mean, for everyone who's watching, unfortunately, like, I don't really have a way of fixing this problem on the spot. I could... restart the stream and stuff like that. There's not any real problem that's coming along there. I can set the quality a bit lower, but again, I don't know why that would do anything, because if I'm not actually dropping frames, then it means it's getting sent to you just fine. But yeah, I mean, maybe next time I will actually have to drop the quality, although I don't know exactly why. Anyway, I'm just going to respond for 1 second here. Nope, sorry about that. Just trying to sort out these issues. That's really annoying. Wish I knew what the problem was so I could fix it. Anyway, the good news for Legion Commander, she does have phase boots now, but the Spectre has phase boots as well, and this is typically not a fight that'll actually, running off into the jungle like that, favor the Legion Commander just because of the Desolate. And we do have another smoke gank, actually, with the Enchantress and the Shadow Demon, who are going top here, trying to look for this Abaddon plus Bristleback. Abaddon actually managing to get off a pole here, which could end up getting them in a bit of trouble, unless they back off quickly enough. But it looks like, yeah, they are actually going to catch the Bristleback, and there will be a shield coming out for the Bristleback. The question is, can they kill him faster? And the answer is yes, actually. The burst damage is way too much with that Soul Catcher. And, well, looks like maybe even the Abaddon will be in a little trouble. They're actually going to send our ultimate forward in order to get this. Which, yeah, definitely not really what you want to see. At the same time, Spectre actually managing to get a solo kill on the Wisp bottom with a haste rune. That's worrisome, to say the least. Magnus, meanwhile, does manage to pick up one of Enchantress's creeps, which is going to be a small consolation on the back of losing 3 heroes on all parts of the map. And if we take a look at the gold and experience graphs, we'll see that, surely enough, it is heavily favoring the Dire. So, yeah, well, not going very well. I do just want to ask, because I see there's actually a fair number of people watching now, and just make sure, I mean, so are people in general still having problems regarding lag, or is it just like 1 or 2 people? Because if like everyone's having it, maybe I will consider just restarting the stream or something. So yeah, just let me know in the stream chat, please. Thank you. So we do see the Bristleback going for the Vanguard, which will probably turn into a Crimson Guard this game. I'm pretty excited about that. That red animation looks pretty awesome. And I think it's a pretty good item. It definitely makes sense to pick it up on a Bristleback, especially when you get pretty decent farm, which, yeah, I guess the good thing for the Radiant is, despite the fact that, I mean, they have actually gone down 4-1 at this stage in the game, they are still sitting up pretty significantly, I would say, on CS in the lanes. I mean, well, actually not that significantly. But there is going to be a little bit of action mid. Magnus is actually going to pop RP in order to actually finish off the Invoker. Invoker's going to throw down a Sunstrike, but it's split on 2 heroes, so it doesn't really do any significant amount of damage. And, yeah, well, there's a pretty important kill on that mid Invoker, who actually was just rushing straight to a Midas. Unfortunately, he had already finished the Midas before that, so it didn't really slow down his farm in any meaningful way. And, oh, well, Shadow Demon, I don't know why he would even be far enough forward to get killed there. I mean, like, he'd already seen all 3 of them, so that's pretty shocking that he actually got caught. Didn't think I would actually have to worry about any damage or anyone going down in a situation like that, because, like, you know, they just have to run right at you. But happened nonetheless, and that plus the bounty rune for the Wisp means that getting very close to that level 6 relocate. Looks like they're actually going to go in on the Spectre here. Is he actually going to be able to get the duel off? Phase boots have already been activated, and duel will actually secure this kill. Does actually manage to get the win. The question is, will he actually be able to get out of here? The 2 TBs come in. Looks like they actually... Oh, they're going to get both of them. Get the Wisp, and the Legion Commander does end up dying to a tower. So probably not worth it in the end, just because you lost both heroes. If only one of them had managed to get out there, it would have definitely been worth it with the TPs plus the small victory you get from winning a duel. Especially this early on in the game can certainly help. Yeah. Well, still, I guess, I mean, you got to go for something. You definitely have to try to shut down that Spectre as much as possible, because she's gotten way too much out of this. And it looks like she's actually going to be going for a Vanguard as well. I'm not sure if it would be a Crimson Guard on her, as that would be a little bit more of a commitment to a hero who typically wants to transition into damage items, but certainly anything is possible. And Legion Commander has come back to bottom here. I guess he is kind of being I'm not sure the Invoker will actually go for a Necronomicon, just because of the Legion Commander's strength against a whole bunch of summons. And, yeah, I guess that's definitely a bright point for the Radiant here. The other bright point, obviously, being the fact that this Magnus extremely close to getting his Blink Dagger up here, which is definitely a little bit scary. The Radiant, or the Dire, sorry, don't really have a lot to react to a Magnus Blink Skewer. I mean, if they can get the disruption off in a timely fashion, obviously it's going to work very well for them. But if they don't get a disruption off, I mean, yeah, they've got the Centaur ultimate, potentially a Centaur Blink. How close is he? No, he's a bit further off. So, yeah, this definitely should provide some important openings for the Radiant here. The Vanguard is actually already done for this Bristleback. It looks like they're going to put a little bit of pressure top, but just immediately TP out from Grazine. Very, very smart play there. And I think this probably means they have to sacrifice the tower, although it hasn't taken much damage up to this point, so maybe it's not even going to be necessary. Also, Legion going for drums, actually, before Blink. I'm not sure if this will actually mean that she'll be getting a Blink, or if there'll just be no Blink at all this game, thanks to the Wisp.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
We'll see. Roping around level 6 Shadow Demon. I think this is probably a dead Legion Commander. TPs need to come in right now. There's actually going to be a relocate. Will he be relocating the Abaddon, which is actually the one who could help? It's not the Abaddon. The Abaddon did TP, though. Is going to be able to get the shield off. Will the damage be too not much? He is actually going to survive. Do they get a return kill on the Spectre? That is the most important thing. 3 stacks of goo. This should almost certainly be a dead Spectre. And, oh! Relocate actually takes the Wisp out, but he breaks the tether, so it does end up securing the kill with the Bristleback on top of the Spectre. Now Wisp is running for his life. Gonna try to find a juke spot to TP out. Probably going to go into one of these trees here and then do it, but not really finding the spot that he wants. And I think this is, yeah, surely enough going to be a kill for the Centaur. Still, well worth it. A thwarted gank bottom. They did have to commit quite a lot to that, but they got the kill on the Spectre, which is the really important kill at this stage in the game. Still delaying that Spectre's Vanguard. And, yeah, at the same time, Magnus has picked up his Blink as well now. So that means the Radiant are definitely looking in a pretty good position. I mean, except the Legion Commander, he's kind of had a little bit of a shaky game. I mean, was in the safe lane, but actually the lowest farm of the 3 cores for the Radiant. All the other Radiant heroes have really gotten up with him. The Bristleback has Treads plus a very fast Vanguard, and the Magnus has his Blink in a very reasonable amount of time. Disconnect coming out from the Invoker. So you definitely would be happy in regards to getting that much up on your cores, whereas on the Dire, like, yeah, sure. The Invoker did get an extremely fast Midas, has the top CS in the game, but, you know, doesn't really provide an immediate impact on the same level that the Bristleback and the Magnus do. He's kind of, you know, more of a delayed gratification type of guy, and I'm not sure if this Staff of Wizardry does signal a Necronomicon, as we would typically expect. Could also just be the Yules, although, yeah, I mean, you could definitely still go for the Yules, even despite having gone for the 4/4. Could be a Dagon, although I'm going to hedge my bets against that. But, yeah, let's take a look. Centaur, he did get that kill on the Wisp, so is pretty close to his Blink Dagger now. Enchantress, she rotated quite a bit, so didn't get as much farm as she would like. Did get the Urn. Looks like she's going back for Treads, which is reasonable. There's a lot of burst damage that can come out from the Radiant. well, not exactly burst, kind of like sustained burst, almost, but still kind of burst nonetheless. And, yeah, tanking up matters a bit, but I'm not sure that I wouldn't have just loved more to see a mech coming out from her. I mean, yeah, the urn is very reasonable, but after the urn, maybe straight into a mech, since there's no one else on his team that's really going to pick it up. That is the one thing about the Bristleback actually going for this Vanguard build, is that he doesn't get a mech either, which is typically something we do like to see on Bristlebacks, although, especially after the mech mana cost increases, can understand that you wouldn't necessarily be rushing right to that. Magnus could theoretically also be their mech carrier. I mean, Mech Magnus is not something that's completely uncommon. We used to see Yao do that quite a bit, and he does already have a very fast Blink Dagger, so a fast mech would be certainly possible. Otherwise, yeah, the Abaddon and the Wisp, I mean, either of them wants a mech, but are they ever going to get it in a reasonable amount of time? Probably not. Otherwise, there's not really anything else worth talking about. I mean, the biggest question of this game is still just going to be what the Legion Commander goes, item build-wise. There's no, like, set correct Legion Commander item builds, I would say, just because it's such a new hero to the metagame. But I would definitely say that Blink Dagger is normally expected. And, yeah, the Invoker just asking the Magnus not to kill him. Magnus could theoretically put him a little bit of a hurt just by blinking and skewering him back, but that would certainly not be very sporting, so we won't be expecting that to happen. And well, looks like a little bit of pressure being put on this bottom tower. I mean, there's a catapult there, so Bristleback, I was wondering if he was thinking about tanking for the catapult, but decides against it. Still should probably be able to get this tower within the next creep wave, unless there are TPs coming out from the Dire, which so far it's not looking like they want to. They've already used the glyph. They're obviously going to get a new one now, but that doesn't really help them for saving that tower. And Legion Commander, you know, picks up his drums and a little way on his way to whatever his next important pickup is going to be. At the same time, Abaddon has been managing to pick up some experience top. Unfortunately, the TPs here weren't quite the sort of TPs that you actually wanted. If the Bristleback had actually been the one to TP in the front, they probably would have caught the Centaur there. I mean, at least forced him to pop off his ultimate, which is a small victory in and of itself. But instead, they kind of TP'd the first person. Oh, and Magnus actually just blinking up, straight RPing this Shadow Demon, but they're going to secure a dual victory off of it. So it's going to be worth it. Nice pickup there. An important solo kill. At the same time, unfortunately, Spectre did manage to get a solo kill on the Wisp, who was left all by his lonesome bottom. Which is kind of another thing that's worth mentioning, is that, so they TP'd 2 top without the Wisp. I mean, Wisp, I think he actually did a relocate on cooldown when I clicked on the bottom. But, yeah, still a little bit unfortunate to just give up a free Wisp kill like that, despite picking up an important dual kill. I mean, yeah, it's slowly but surely building on this Legion Commander here. And he's 1,200 gold now, so can certainly go into the Blink Dagger in still a reasonable amount of time after picking up these drums. Drums are a pretty reasonable item for his stats. Magnus TP'd mid to defend, saw that the Invoker gave up. He's actually rotating into the jungle instead, and just picking up a little bit of farm with the Enchantress, so he's going to be content just to sit here and keep this creep wave back. Does need to be careful, though. Obviously, whenever there's a potential Centaur Blink Dagger on the map, which they actually know that there's a Centaur Blink Dagger thanks to this excellent ward, you really got to be careful wherever you go, because that combo with the Sunstrike is one of the deadliest. Bristleback heading bottom, does have the Buckler up, so definitely be seeing a Crimson Guard from him. Still no sign of the mech anywhere, but I think it's not extremely important. Although, I mean, it's questionable whether the mech or the Crimson Guard is actually going to have a bigger impact against the burst damage that comes out from the Dire for the other heroes on this team. And, oh, Magnus. He's really playing a dangerous game here. So blinks away right as the Centaur blinks in to try to stomp him. Does pick up the Invis rune. And, yeah, he's actually going to pop it, but unfortunately pops it right on top of a Dire ward. So are there any forms of detection on the Dire here? Enchantress, no. The courier coming with, yeah, sentries. So they could end up punishing him for this if he does overstay his welcome with that Invis. Meanwhile, top, they have found the Spectre. They do actually manage to catch him in a duel. I think this should probably be a victory, and yeah, looks like it's going to be exactly that. So, well, proving that you don't actually need a Blink Dagger when you have this this Wisp with you. But now they need to be careful. It may end up being a little bit of a relocate out situation, and I think that's exactly what this is going to be. Relocate out? Yep. You know, maybe just gonna try to keep him alive as Magnus jumps in and gets a huge RP, and with the Empower on the Legion Commander, going to end up wrecking this entire team. So I thought it would be in relocate out, but it actually just turns out that the Legion Commander a little bit too tanky. Actually going to relocate forward after the Shadow Demon now. There's still no possibility of a duel, but it doesn't matter as that is going to be a full team wipe on the back of that excellent bait into Magnus RP. And yeah, Magnus is really on point. So far has created pretty much all the kills for the Radiant here, showing why they actually prioritize Magnus as a relatively early pickup in the draft. And Legion Commander, yeah, completely opting to skip the BKB, just going to continue doing things the way she has been so far, abusing the movement speed rather than worrying about the blink, and going straight into the BKB. Still obviously can get purged by the Shadow Demon, which means that kiting her is definitely a possibility, but I guess she's not too worried about it, since she obviously does have, against the odds, which... yeah, I assume that's what it's called. Press the attack. I'm just combining the names of a bunch of different abilities here in order to actually dispel debuffs. Now, let's see. We do have these two roaming. I think this is actually probably the last smoke for the Dire here. And the smoke is actually going to be dispelled. Is there anyone nearby who could actually help him out? No. So this is going to be a Dead Wisp. Not the most crucial of kills. So I don't think the Dire are going to gain too much out of that. Looks like a Bounty Rune is about the extent of it, as they're actually the ones still having their towers pushed. Magnus actually has come over here to give the Empower to Legion Commander, who's farming this relatively huge Ancient stack, which the Abaddon was working on getting up for him earlier in the game, which is definitely a strength of this dual lane off lane, being able to send the support in order to go pick up some free Ancient stacks. And Legion Commander farms that with ease, getting extremely close. Actually, with these three big ones, might potentially just actually have... yeah, this is actually going to have the BKB done now, which is, considering how bad of an early game the Legion Commander had, comparatively, definitely a bit of a scary snowball coming out from this Legion Commander, provided mostly thanks to this Magnus. And Magnus actually, Staff of Wizardry, so probably just going to be going for a 4-staff afterwards. Pretty typical. Still no sign of the mech on the Radiant, but I would assume, yeah, the Crimson Guard actually has been finished up by this, oh, and actually I didn't realize this, but yeah, by this Bristleback. I didn't realize that the Crimson Guard actually didn't cost any mana. I mean, I haven't actually picked it up yet myself. Another tower just going to fall for free. So that's actually kind of nicer than the mech in that regard as well, because obviously, like I said, the mech really hurts a hero who has a very limited mana pool early on, whereas the Crimson Guard's actually not going to cost him at all in order to use that. Plus, it provides him with natural tankiness, which he wants a bit more so than the mech. Now, obviously, much larger gold investment than the mech.
Dire's middle tower
is there going to be a defense bottom? I think so. Spectre does have her Vanguard up as well. Looks like she's probably saving into a Radiance next. 1 TB comes in. Magnus is here. He's looking. Knows the Shadow Demon's there, so it is a little bit difficult. Actually ends up blinking and skewering forward. Does RP just the Shadow Demon. I mean, sorry, just the Spectre. Shadow Demon is actually going to get the disruption off. The Crimson Guard has actually been deployed. Looks like the Shadow Demon will not be getting out of here. The question is, will they actually be able to turn around? Looks like the Enchantress Kim's in wanting to fight, so Shadow Demon living for the time, still on the run. Is the Bristleback going to be able to finish him off? Yes, Bristleback does manage to finish him, and it ends up being 2 kills. Really confused by the Enchantress like manning up there. Didn't seem like it was a very high likely turnaround situation since there was no further support. There was no tier 2 tower left, so it's not like anyone could really get there in a reasonable amount of time. And despite Sunstrike being good for ganks, it's not really that good for turns. But, well, Radiant still continuing to roll on. Looks like a Maelstrom will be the next pickup from the Legion Commander. Invoker did end up turning that first staff into a 4-staff. Still unsure what the second one will be. Most likely it's going to be Yule's. And, ooh, Centaur does have his blink, actually. Isn't actually going to get clipped by any of the spirits, which would prevent his blink. And, yeah, he is going to end up just blinking out of there after pulling a few heroes back. But they get the tower in the mid anyway. And, yeah, continuing to roll. And if we take a look at the gold graph, 7,500 gold, about 6,000 experience in favor of the Radiant. And a nice ward up here in the Dire jungle. They're actually going to find this Invoker, but it's not like the Abaddon can really do something by himself, so the Invoker's just kind of going to walk away. Knows he's been spotted, does need to be careful because he doesn't know who's else around, but no one who could stop his TPs, so he's still just going to hang out. Did end up going for the Necrobook, so it wasn't the Yules. It's interesting because typically if you're going to go for the Necrobook, you would go for it like, first item. You know, obviously, the item is better the sooner you get it. Most items are better the sooner you get them, but Necrobook specifically, since everything it does is based on flat numbers, whereas the 4-staff is generally going to always be good, which is little bit strange. Kind of expected the Yules after he'd gone for the fourth staff for the first staff of Wizardry, but certainly Necrobook is obviously an excellent item. And going into Roshan here, but they do get scouted out by a Sunstrike. I think this would be a mistake to try to take this. I saw this once from them already, though. It's actually their Shadow Fiend who hung around when he really shouldn't have had a Roshan. Maybe it wasn't the Shadow Fiend, but they had definitely done this one time before. Like, got scouted and then still hung around and got punished for it. But not going to make that mistake here, and actually transferring the bottle to the Legion Commander, who is actually going to get this DD. And now, I mean, with the DD, they probably can actually manage to take this. Has his Maelstrom as well. This Legion Commander is huge. Force Staff actually up onto the high ground. Magus does skewer forward just to do a little bit of damage and manage to get slow, but then blinks right back out, actually blinking down into the river when the Centaur tried to combo him. Sunstrike is going to come out. Do need to be really careful. Legion Commander actually forced to pop the BKB. Might die to the Spectre Ultimate anyway. Are there going to be actually heals coming out here? One heal has come out. RP actually by the Magnus as well, trying to kill these illusions. And knowing that everything's down on the Radiant now, this is the Dire's chance to go. But at the same time, there's already a Bristleback up on the high ground, just tearing through the support. And this is kind of such a disjointed fight. I mean, there's actually only 3 heroes here from the Dire, just because of the lack of towers. Relocate actually coming in from the Wisp. Wisp just trying to get into a better spot in the fight. Victory from the Legion Commander and yet another duel. And Shadow Demon running for his life here. And doesn't look like he's actually going to be able to make it out of here. I don't think he really has any hope. And yeah, well, a fight. Oh, the Sunstrike takes out the Legion Commander, who was still working on Rosh. The Mega Kill streak actually ended by the Invoker. And they are going to secure Roshan, but at this point it's going to be an Aegis, which goes to most likely a Magnus. Not really the best Aegis ever. And the Dire did manage to get the Tier 1 tower top. So what turned pretty bad for the Dire did end up not being the worst thing ever, as they got a little bit out of it. Still, just kind of the effect of giving up so many towers so early on. With no Tier 2 in the mid or bottom, there was just nothing that these other heroes could TP to in order to really contest this Roshan fight. I mean, after the Legion Commander had been forced to pop the BKB, well, I guess forced to pop the BKB, and had popped the BKB, and the Magnus actually RP'd just Spectre Illusions. I mean, admittedly Spectre Ultimate Illusions, but still Spectre Illusions. It seemed pretty likely that mYi would have a good chance in that fight, but just by virtue of the fact that there really was no way that the other heroes could join. I mean, Invoker joined in the form of multiple Sunstrikes, but didn't actually get in the fight. It kind of turned pretty ugly. And we do actually see that something we don't typically see. Spectre has actually gone, I mean, sorry, not Spectre, Centaur has actually gone back for a Vanguard after his Blink Dagger. Vanguard, one of those items that's really good when you get early on in the game, and less good progressively as the game progresses. Didn't mean to actually say it like that, but so that's why we typically wouldn't expect to see this at this point. I mean, a mech would have been better, a Force Staff would have been better, going for a BKB probably would have been better, but guess just really cares about tanking up, try to live through those duels, which I guess, you know, when you're in duel, the Vanguard still works for you, whereas the mech, it's not going to do anything for you, so that's definitely something to consider, although I'm not sure it's the direction I would have gone with it. Magnus, oh, shit. Oh, so they just found Wisp in the jungle here. And Wisp thinks they're probably at ward there. I don't know how I missed the Wisp just wandering off into there, but... oh, thank you for the comments in the stream. Sorry, just reading stream chat real quick, because I was still a little bit worried about the lag, but since I asked, like, only one, maybe two other people actually said something, so I'm not sure where the problem lies. Since it seems like most people are having no problems. Anyway, Wisp gets blown up. They know there's a ward here. Legion Commander actually gets spotted by the ward that I suspect that they know, but he's not really afraid of these people. And surely enough, they're actually afraid of him since he's huge. And at the same time, the tower push going on top, Wisp can relocate the Legion Commander in, and that's exactly what the Wisp is TPing mid to do. So this is a pretty safe push from the Radiant here, taking down the last Dire tower. Yeah, looks like the Dire are in a little bit of trouble here, as they now have no towers left. The Radiant have all their towers except for the Tier 1 top, and I don't really know what they're out of. I mean, they have a Spectre, and Spectre, I assume, yeah, very close to the Radiance. Has the Sacred Relic already. The biggest question is whether the Radiance actually does anything. I mean, typical counters to Radiance are healing, and there's definitely a significant amount of healing coming out on the Radiant through the Abaddon and through the Wisp, so I'm not sure that it's really going to actually have that big of an impact like you would typically hope for. And plus, on top of that, it's going to be like a 26-minute Radiance, which is pretty slow. So, yeah, well, Crimson Guard popped. They're going in on this tower here. Completely manning up. Glyph is deployed. Bristleback just running forward to zone the heroes out a little bit. Crimson Guard is actually over now. which means this might not be the best time for them to get caught in the fight. But at the same time, the Dire don't really have a good form of initiation. And they've got their typical disrupt into stun, or even just stun, but then there's just going to be a aphotic shield thrown out. And it's kind of just going to turn around... Sorry, I'm reading stream chat. I really shouldn't read stream chat while chatting. I should finish sentences before reading the stream chat. It's just like... yeah. Whatever. Anyway, I mean, that's probably just going to get turned around on them, and they're really not going to get a whole lot out of jumping in here. But at the same time, I mean, the Crimson Guard activation, it's a pretty big investment of gold, having bought that. And the fact that it's down, I mean, if there's ever an opening, this might be it. Maybe just, wait exactly for press the attack to be used, wait until it's about to expire, and then try to go in. The problem is both these heroes are so tanky, too. I mean, the BKB is up on the Legion Commander, so as soon as he gets shielded, he's just going to BKB afterwards, and then there's really no chance of killing him. Bristleback obviously doesn't have a BKB, but has a Crimson Guard plus an SNY and Strength Treads up, so pretty unlikely that you're going to be able to DPS him down as well, despite, max level Soul Catcher on the Shadow Demon, which was a good decision, but still certainly a risky situation. And the Centaur is going to jump in. BKB immediate by Legion Commander is going to get the duel. The Disruption comes out, so the duel will probably not be victorious here, but at the same time, Magnus causing a ton of havoc. Centaur ultimate coming out, and, Lizard doing a fair amount of damage. Still not really enough. Spectre is in here, but doesn't have the Radiance yet, which would actually be pretty huge here, since there's a lot of low HP heroes on the Radiant. Bristleback, who still has not really taken any significant amount of damage, managed to chase down the Centaur all the way towards the fountain, going after Lizard now as well. He's about to 4-shot Lizard, and Magnus actually comes in and secures that kill. At the same time, the Racks have already gone on top, so XPC just rolling over mYi, and some excellent play there displayed by the Legion Commander, who reacted so perfectly to that blink, and I mean, he knew it was coming, he was ready with the BKB the entire time. Magnus actually had, Centaur just had really good positioning on his blink actually, but it just did not matter. And with these two heroes down, looks like they're going to continue to press the advantage, as they haven't really lost anything. I mean, they have used their ultimate, but the Spectre and the Centaur ultimates are down as well. And I think they're not really afraid of anything that the Dire can do at this point, evidenced by the fact that Reels is standing really far forward here. Now he's about to get 4 stacks, and he's need to get shielded this off. No, just going to let it pop instead. And I guess get healed up as they just back off. Deciding not to go too deep in this, which makes pretty good sense. You don't really want to overcommit when you've got the game securely in your grasp. And obviously, the longer it goes on, I would say the more it's going to favor the Radiant, just because of the advantage they already have, on top of the fact that if they keep winning duels, this Legion Commander is just going to snowball out of control. Compared to the Spectre, who obviously is going to have a Radiance, but with Radiance Phase Vanguard, still needs like probably 2 more items before she can actually meet the contribution that the Legion Commander is committing. And I don't really know that the 2 items are going to come before the game actually ends here. Legion Commander already has her Maelstrom up. Mjolnir up, had the Maelstrom before. Invoker, still the highest net worth for the Dire, has the Necro 3, which we saw do a fair amount of work in that fight, especially on the Magnus, but just didn't really matter. Wisp actually looks a little bit bigger because the DD rune, you can't really tell where the Wisp ends and the DD begins. Hunting for this Invoker, but I don't think the Invoker is going to get caught. And they're just going to rotate down here. Looks like Legion will probably be going for an AC as his next item pickup. Magnus, how close are you to your refresher? Does actually have the Perseverance on the career, so basically just needs to farm up this creep and then do 1 more. And we'll actually have the recipe as well. Which, refresher RP, that's definitely a thing. Not sure that there's a whole lot that can be done about that. I mean, admittedly, if the first RP is actually used on the Spectre Ultimate Illusions, then there's definitely the possibility, but I'm not sure it's a very real possibility. Meanwhile, Wisp, how close were you to that mech? Headdress mech, actually I thought I had seen that. So Wisp actually has a done mech as a support Wisp at 28 minutes, which is also a nice contribution to his team, meaning that his healing is really going to get out of control. Bristleback going back in for a plate mail at the same time that there is a Hyperstone on the Legion Commander, which indicates that this, well, unless they're just not communicating, which I doubt, indicates that this will most likely be a Shiva's picked up on the Bristle, which is obviously a good pickup for him. Helps with his mana problems, which admittedly at level 16, mana problems is a little bit less of a thing, but they're never completely gone. Oh, Spectre. Gonna probably be forced to pop her ultimate for this. Nope. guess she's just going to try to dagger into a tree, but there is still the problem with the Magnus. Magnus tried to get the RP off there, but didn't actually manage. The Crimson Guard has been popped. They actually do manage to get Disrupt combo off on this Bristleback here, but the healing is going to come out, and Bristleback's going to be fine. And there is RP number 1. Does he have the refresher on him? He actually does, so he can consider using the second one, but actually decided against it as the duel to secure the kill on the Invoker was what they had in mind a little bit more so. But he can re-engage at any point. Wow, actually getting blown up the Abaddon there by the... actually, yeah, I guess the shield killed the Necronomicon units. Real Axe force staffing him, or getting force staff in by the Magnus, continuing to chase down on the Spectre. Shockwave is going to come out, force staff by the Invoker, not going to be enough to save him. One right click finishes off the Shadow Demon as well. Relax has gone down. There's RP number 2 with the refresher activated. And Magnus continuing to man up here alongside this Bristleback. And, well, it looks like that might be all she wrote. Although the buybacks from the Dire could potentially turn this around. The Spectre buyback with that Radiance is going to slowly but surely burn them down. Dagger is going to slow down the water here. Is water fast enough to run away? He is going to keep popping those quills, but he's taking a fair amount of damage from doing this as well, and it looks like Zamaj is actually going to go down. Sensei should be able to finish off Madara, though. Madara is going to die, but that's a dieback from the Spectre there, which means that she's not really ever getting any other items in this game, and that, yeah, if we take a look at the top 3 net worths, despite the Dire holding, they held only in spirit. Well, only in, I guess, in reality? No, it's not even really reality. I mean, physically they held, but emotionally they're broken. And, gold-wise, too. Poor Abaddon, though. Just tough way to go out there. Getting killed by his own Aphotic Shield, popping on a Necronomicon unit, killing him with Last Will. It's a tough life to be a support. Ooh. Yeah, Wisp, you might have been a little bit far forward there. Shadow Demon going to try to do something about that, but didn't actually get one stack of the poison up in the first place, so probably not going to actually be able to finish him off as he just relocates over to this Abaddon friend. Well, Crimson Guard actually up by Centaur, so I guess the Vanguard did make a little bit more sense now that we do see this Crimson up. I guess if this does become like that important of an item for teams to pick up, then, well, you want to get one, whether it's a little bit late or not. You think that's a real one. Maybe you don't. Maybe you thought it was an illusion. You just wanted to kill it anyway. Because, well, you have obs down, and those illusions, even illusions can still kill gem. Can still use the gem to kill wards. So, Shiva is finished off on the Bristleback. And Legion Commander looks like still working towards that AC. Anything on the career for it? No. Dire side, yeah, Shadow Demon obviously not getting anything. Mech was finished on Lizard, which is definitely something. I mean, they've got the Mech plus the Crimson Guard combo now, so their team fight is maybe a little bit, well, as far as just team fight items go, a little bit better. And Skank's gonna shield himself up, but actually nice timing for the jump in by the Centaur there. Are they gonna be able to finish him off before the reinforcements arrive, though? 8-Ball says no. Nice, definitely Meteor combo, kind of, but not really compared to the huge RP once again coming out from this Magnus here, and looks like they're going to just be finishing off all of the Dire. GG well played coming out from the Dire here, as the Legion Commander finishes off the Rampage before the game times out. So, again, huge game for this Legion Commander, and well played there by XPC. I was Hari. This was the SLTV Pro Series, Season 10. Following XPC versus mY Insanity, and well, I think this is actually the end of the season, but I only got involved at the end, still had a lot of fun casting the games while I can, and we'll be back with more games in this as well as other tournaments as soon as I get the opportunity. So please, if you did enjoy, follow the stream, and we'll try to bring you as much Dota in the near future as possible. Regardless, thanks again to the sponsors, Asus and Republic of Gaming. Republic of Gamers. Oof. Thanks again to SLTV for running this amazing tournament, and thanks to the teams who participated and all you viewers who are out there. Have a great evening, and I will hopefully see you again soon.